Let's preface this with some mildly important information for once. I have never played a Dragon Quest game before this one. This is the first one I've ever played. Primer video game! So if I say things that seem off or obvious to the franchise, that would be the reason why. Or I'm just an idiot. Which honestly, that's the more likely reason. Onwards though, my would-be luminaries. You must shine light on these dark and dreary times, wrought with many game releases, angry Black Friday shoppers, and more Smash talk than you ever wanted to hear. We will go on a journey through Erdrea together, or rather, I will let you know what to expect on your time spent within it. In true Entitled One fashion, we're going to start off with the general story of Dragon Quest XI. You play as an avatar character, which, for those unfamiliar, is generally a character with a blank personality slate that you'll see in games like Persona, Fire Emblem Awakening, although that's a little slightly more developed than a normal avatar. Every MMO ever, you're an avatar character. You're living in a small town named Cobblestone. Some stuff happens and you find out, Wablamo! You're the one and only luminary, the God-sent divine and holy person whose sole purpose in life is to beat up monsters, smack crystals, and partake in the beautiful puff puff. In actuality, you are told you are to find out what your purpose as a luminary is. This is an RPG with a super old school vibe to it, in all honesty. It is naturally obvious you are to face off against some crazy dark entity that probably threatens to destroy all of existence. It's truly super bare bones, which, for once, I honestly think helps the game out tremendously. It doesn't try to break any ground in its writing concepts. Instead, it chooses to adopt a truly classic JRPG story, and in doing so, focuses writing a memorable experience even if its premise is generic. A lot of the game's charm comes from the world you're in and the characters you meet across your adventure. You have the charming, charismatic rogue Eric, the twin sisters, one sweet, one rather salty, Veronica and Serena, the old man Rob, the jester Sylvando, and the martial artist Jade, all of whom have personality tropes that are not new at all, but are written super fun and relatively believably. My personal favorites being Jade and Sylvando. You'll see when you get there, but I love them both very much. One of my favorite things I need to mention is how the game handles the world. Throughout the game, you visit many areas blatantly inspired by real-world locales, Gallipolis being inspired by the Middle East, Gondola being Italy, L'Académie being France, etc., etc. All of these areas, the characters in them, whether it's party members you get or NPCs, tend to have accents fitting of the region, like the areas directly inspired by.
A splendid rendition, girls.
Listen to
Now,
that.
to your lesson. May you have a maximally fruitful day on your journey to become miniature ladies par excellence.
So if you go to L'Académie, most of the people there, people who were raised around there, have a blatantly French accent, and it's pretty cool. This is something I wish more games did with its VO work. Having regions with different accents from each other further makes the world more believable as it's true to real life. And it's a super nice touch, even if the VA can at times be a little hit or miss. All in all, it's a good story. There's not much else to say. It's super bare bones. It's a good versus evil story. It has some pretty nice twists to it towards the later parts. And although it's not breaking in concept at all, it's very well written within its classical vibes. It's like I said, it's an old school JRPG. The best way to put it is, it's a palate cleanser RPG. You do not need to put on your big boy philosophy hat like with the Persona games, or Nier, or any of that. Which in this case, is extremely good for me, especially because the last two RPGs I played were Persona and Nier. So it's nice that I have an RPG that's not as, crazy philosophical as that. The gameplay is simplistic enough. It's a turn-based RPG where whoever has the biggest stick wins. You just take turns kind of smacking dudes, using abilities, healing, using Zip Puff Puff. You have like 7 party members if I recall correctly. A pretty sizable amount, I do personally believe. There are obviously games with bigger, but you get the point. The world in this game is also pretty massive to explore. The environments you walk around remind me kind of like the newer Tales games. Like the size and scope is kind of comparable to Berseria and Zestaria's environments. You can also ride a horse you were given at the beginning of the game to get places faster. Feels really great when you dash through an enemy with your horse. Get out of the way, loser! I got a kingdom to save! In battle, you have a couple of options. All pretty generic for an RPG. Attack, defend, spells, abilities, etc. One cool mechanic is the pep-up mechanic. So the way it works is, as you battle and your characters take damage, they have a chance of basically turning into the Hulk. Granting them Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan for a bit. Increasing attack and a bunch of stats that vary per character. Eric gets better deafness, which is made for stealing. Serena's magical might, which is offensive magic, goes up. So on and so forth. Another cool thing worth mentioning is each character can use multiple types of weapons. This is something I wish other RPGs would actually adopt, because it's pretty rad when you can have a character using multiple weapon types. The pro tag can use swords and great swords. Eric can use daggers, swords, and boomerangs. And the list goes on with each party member. Rob uses staves and claw weapons. Jade uses claw weapons and spears. You get the point. And what's fun to mention as well, involving pep up. While you're pepped up, you and other pepped up members can combine your powers for a massive combo attack. So think of it kind of like what I know about the combination system in Chrono Trigger, but still slightly different. And I think that just about covers it for gameplay. As I said, it's a generic RPG, turn-based. It's good, but it's not breaking the mold here. So it's time to move on. Alright, now the OST in this game is a super funky topic for me. Like, new, fresh, funky edition kind of funky. The soundtrack isn't inherently bad, rather I find it relatively enjoyable. Although not groundbreaking, just like everything else in this game. The problem is the use of the OST and the lack of variety. The first example I can think of is there's a massive event that happens at about the halfway point of the game. The music they use for it does not fit in any way, shape, or form, and to top it all off, it's a song used for every other serious moment in the game, and with how serious of a moment the halfway turning point of this game is, they should have adopted a better fitting song for it, because it kind of took away a lot of the impact it was meant to have. And this happens consistently throughout the game. The overworld theme is never different per region, which they could have easily done because snowy regions, swampy regions, so on and so forth. A lot of the town regions are the same. The battle theme never changes. I don't even think there's a boss battle theme. If there is, I can't remember it. So on and so forth. So be warned, the OST is pretty alright, but it's used super poorly. I think the best song I heard is the opening theme performed by the Tokyo Metropolitan Symphony Orchestra, which you'll definitely hear throughout this video. Probably in this section, actually. But other than that, it's pretty lackluster at times. All in all, what do I think of Dragon Quest? I think it's a giant pile of Nah, It's actually a super solid RPG, to be, like, in all seriousness. I actually wasn't ready to be as into this game as I found myself. The story, world, characters are extremely fun, albeit bare bones in concept. The gameplay, also bare bones, good enough to get you by. The art, nice enough looking for me for once to also make me want to play it. The OST is honestly my largest complaint about the game, and that says a lot about an RPG. There is some, like, gripes in the writing and the story where there are some inconsistencies, which you'll find as you play the game, but most stories across most mediums have such a problem, and they're not bad enough that they make individual, like, incidents worth mentioning in this game. Like, the one or two gripes I have about inconsistency really aren't worth it. So upon thinking everything over, I think I'm going to give Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age a solid 9 out of 10. It doesn't try to be something it's not, and that honestly helps this game tremendously. This is an all-around super solid old school RPG experience, especially if you do not want to have to put on your big boy pants and think super hard. You don't want to be Angles or like Nietzsche, whatever other like old philosopher you can think of. It's perfect for you. I recommend just picking the game up right now, even if it's at full price. I don't know if it is, I don't keep track of that. And play it if you're a fan of JRPGs, even more so classic ones, especially if you're a Dragon Quest fan, just pick it up. Yeah, that's about it. This has been Freddie Wompton. I'll see you all for the next Enlightenment.